Oh boy, are we in for one today. So this video is going to be quick-natured. It's not been overtly researched, but it's going to be more, little thoughts, little thoughts. So I came into work today and one of my colleagues is a United fan and he went to the Nottingham Forest at the City Ground on Tuesday, which is yesterday from when I'm recording. Don't know when I upload. But, we were just talking in the morning and I said, how was the game yesterday? For those of you who don't know, United went to Nottingham Forest to the City Ground where they lost a respectable, to be honest with you, 1-0, given that United are in, I want to say 14th, or off the top of my dome. I don't know exactly where they are. They might be 13th, but they're around that ballpark. And Nottingham Forest are in a comfortable third, with quite a cushion between third and fourth, I think. Forest have had a cracking season, yes, against all the odds, but yet they've had a cracking season and they've kept it up all season. So, it's not an easy ground to go to, not an easy fixture. So it does mean something to go to the City Ground and only lose 1-0. Man City, who I support, who, not to be rude, are currently better than United, went to the City Ground. Let's have a look. Nottingham Forest versus Manchester City. Bosh. There you see it. And we also lost 1-0. And, not to be rude, at the minute, even we're not having the best season, but we're still a better team than United at the moment. Realistically, I expect a lot of flack for that comment, but I am stressing at them in it. We are. I think most United fans would agree with that. We went there, we lost to them. United went there, they lost to them, both 1-0s. But, it's just the sort of it's the sort of stuff we're dealing with. They've made it a bit of a fortress this season, Forest. So, respectable. United had time where they were dominating the game, dominating attack, but they went and lost. So as I came into work and was talking to this gentleman, he said Elanga is so rapid. Yeah, he is. Yeah, credit where credit's due. Elanga's performance yesterday was incredible. He was the one who bagged the goal. He was making these really pacey runs. It was kind of old-style football, kick the ball up, running up. Kind of reminded me of Traore, put with a bit more, dare I say, skill about him, a bit more finesse. But he had a really good game. He was given man of the match. In the end, it was close between a few. Yates played really well. Nico Williams played really, really good. Sells the keeper. He didn't have a ton to do because that's why United was struggling in that final third. But, he was really on for it. And then there was a last-minute clearance off the line, like right at the death, like the last kick of the game, right off the line. And overall, they put in a great team performance. But that's not the point I'm here to make today. That's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is something that this colleague, this United fan colleague, compatriot, said, which is, well, why did we get rid of Elanga? Why did we get rid of him? And I've heard the same said for, a few players. Danny Welbeck comes to mind in recent years. Who's popping off at Brighton, and he's, I think he's Brighton's top goal scorer, but he's up there in any case. But it's not important. That's not the point I'm making. So it's just important to know, it's been seen before. I've spoke to this to my partner, who is a United fan, and it's not. I'm not trying to say this in an insulting way. Has anyone ever thought that it's not that United are letting these players go entirely? I'm not saying it's that in every case. I'm sure a lot of these players, even now, would still have loved to have stayed at United. It's I always say it's an historic club. It's a club with history. It's a club with passion. It's a club with pride, and it's meaningful to play for United. But do you also think that some of these players left because, well, there were better things, better opportunities? United haven't been at this top club for a long time, and that's not rude to say. Things go in cycles, man, and at the minute, United are in the down cycle. They're a crap team, That's me being honest about it. They're a crap team. So you have this thing where you are used to your team being amazing. You know about their history, about the history of the team. United are a record-breaking team, but you have this. You have to have this realism. You have to have this realism where you say, right, we're not a good team at the minute, and unexpected. But yeah, Nottingham Forest are better than us. But can you really say for the last couple of seasons that say Brighton haven't been better than you? Even if they might have, come in the table lower than United at some point, I don't know off the top of my head, but at least they've had a majority, positive trajectory progression, if you will, through the seasons, whereas United have had this slow, winding decline. And it's just something to think about, yeah? United don't have the pull that they used to have, and that's not, well, it is a bad thing. It is a bad thing because it affects the quality of players that you can draw in, and it affects the quality of players that you can keep. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing to realise that and be honest about it and try and build the team again, which is what Amorim is doing. But he said it himself. But I have a lot of respect for United fans as a City fan. Not only do I remember when City was shit growing up, but also just the fact that they're behaving like a proper team about it. They still back their team every single week. They still get big crowds in, and they're not afraid to have a laugh at themselves, which is more than you can say for Arsenal, Chelsea, to an extent, even Liverpool. Even Liverpool, when Liverpool was shit, they were, Liverpool have never really been shit, but when they, had a dry spell in the late noughties and early 2010s and all that, yeah, they weren't the best, and they didn't laugh at themselves like Manchester clubs seem to. They never poked fun at themselves. The support was there, but they didn't. United have got that about them. City fans used to take the piss out of themselves, and United fans are taking the piss out of themselves, and it's so funny. And the whole Glazers out thing, I'm behind it. I think the Glazers are poison. They're poison to the club. But again, I'm not focusing on that. But sometimes I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to realise, like, okay, you don't have the top draw pull that you used to have. And sometimes it's not, why are we as a team getting rid of players? Well, it's more like these players might be deciding to walk away. We don't know, but we have seen countless times, most recently in fucking Anthony, of all people, we've seen a player leave United and then start to show up. Again, Danny Welbeck is in the twilight of his career and he's hitting it. He's hitting it at Brighton. And there's just this culture of that happening at United. And yeah, you can say some of it is bad ownership. I'd say a lot of it's bad ownership. A lot of it, the Glazers are destroying the club. There is a full Wikipedia page dedicated to Glazer ownership of Man United. It is that controversial and, in my opinion, that bad. But, I won't bore you with that. So then the conversation did move on. It did move on to the Glazers a little bit, and we touched upon it. And this colleague of mine mentioned Jadon Sancho. And he said, Jadon Sancho was never the problem. Jadon Sancho was never the problem, but it's the Glazers. Now, I wanted to kick off with him, to be honest, in the nicest way. What an idiot. You can still have the Glazers be a problem and have a player that is also problematic. That's not unknown. It's not unheard of. It's not stupid. It's not daft. It's just true. It's the truth. it's the truth. We're getting some truth bombs in here. Jadon Sancho is known to be a difficult player. He's known to be a bit of a shit stirrer. He's known to be the sort of player that instigates crap in the dressing rooms, and he's known to be lazy, and he's known to have poor timekeeping. And this isn't even speculation at this point. This is a relatively open secret. We've seen him at getting pushed around from club to club. He was at Manchester City in his youth. He didn't last long there. He was pushed away. Dortmund, we got over 100 performances in for them, but they wanted rid of him. United, he's been having issues. He's still with United now, but he's on loan. But he was having issues there with Ten Hag and his coaching team, and then he gets pushed back to Dortmund, who didn't really want him. They had him for 14 games. Now he's at Chelsea, and Chelsea's a fucking club for him, to be honest. No offense, Chelsea fans, but you have some quite difficult players. You have got like some pompous players, to be honest with you, and you have done for a few years, and but you guys, seem to make it work, to be honest, in some form or another. So I can't be too judgmental. But again, that's not the point. That's by the by. You can pick beef with me for that if you like. We'll talk about it another time. The main thing is just twofold. Number one, some United fans just need to be a bit more realistic about where the club is currently at. The second thing is, although the Glazers are completely to blame, I don't think you can say a player like Sancho is not problematic. It's literally an open secret. It's an open world secret that fucking Sancho causes problems. He's never wanted in the dressing room, and City have done it a few times. Pep has sent people out that he thinks might be causing issues in the dressing room. Rumours. Again, you have to be careful with what you say. Rumours about Cole Palmer being that sort of character, which, you have to be careful because, again, as I'm aware, he wanted to stay at City. Even though he's a United fan, he wanted to stay at City, grow his career there, but it didn't transpire. But again, that doesn't mean he wasn't causing a bit of a fuss. Yeah, there's many players. Joe Hart was one of the first we heard about getting removed from the City team, and he was a club legend. We won our first FA Cup, our first league with him between the sticks. He was England number one, but Pep came in, and rumours were abuzz that he was causing shit, so he was out. You can say what you want about the play style. He didn't fit Pep's play style. That's fair. We all know that. But these rumours were also abuzz that he was causing shit in the dressing room. So he was removed. He was causing dressing room problems and issues, if you believe the rumours. And, I've had a look at who Sancho played for. Some of the other players that I knew about, like Danny Welbeck, for example, who I used as an example. And yeah, I just think, look at that. Look at where he's been. Look at where he is. 2 goals. 2 goals in 23 appearances. That's 2 goals this whole season for Sancho. And I just think sometimes it might be a case of, well, they left United not because United let them go, but because, well, they wanted to leave, because it's not even that United are a dog shit team now and, I'm going to move to another team. It might just be down to playing time. Like, look, 66 appearances for Forest since 23. They might just want more playing time, to start a career. And United aren't always providing that. And they've not just... And then you mix that with the fact they've not got the acclaim they used to have. They've not got Champions League football. You're not performing on the world stage. And, it was at the point where playing for United, even if you weren't playing for them all the time, was almost like a buzzing review for your portfolio. That's the clout that United carried. And people were picking up on that. Teams were picking up on that. And Nottingham Forest haven't currently got, European football. They've not. But look at that. 66 appearances, 11 goals since 23. We're in 25. Like, that explains to me why players like Elanga left. you know. But you can't blame the United fans for still seeing that, that clout that United have, that history, that pulling power, that, buzz for the portfolio that playing for United just seems to carry. You can't blame the fans for that, really. Football is a tribal game. It's a game of pride, and you can see why the United fans are still thinking like that. But I just don't think it's always the case that we got rid of him. And tell me I'm wrong, but you hear that a lot from United fans. Why did we get rid of him? Not we didn't do enough to make him want to stay. We didn't do enough as a team. I get it. I can see why he wants to leave. It's always, why did we let him go? As if it was never his choice. I guess that this video is split into 2 points here. The first point is, you've got the players like Elanga that's moved to Nottingham Forest and his career has absolutely bloomed. And, you can't say that we let him go. I'm not saying that is the case with Elanga. I am 100% not saying that. I'm just saying that, it's not always going to be the case nowadays for United fans that you let a player go. Sometimes the player's just going to leave because he wants to achieve more, and that's fine. The second side to that is, just on a more personal story-led note, what the fuck is my colleague on about saying Jadon Sancho is fine? Because sometimes players are just difficult and players are a pain in the arse. And the United dressing room at the minute is very fragile and very tentative. And you just don't need a player like that in that dressing room, in that environment. You need an environment where the players can gel and they can bond and they can figure things out and they can build on it. And like I say, Amarin's even mentioned that, so Amarin isn't going to want him back. Which takes me on to the next point, which is, news has recently broke that Chelsea are having problems with Sancho. They don't want him, which is why he doesn't get a lot of playtime. He's only scored 2 goals this season. And, if you believe the rumours, they want United to take him back. And United are like, whoa, you agreed on a buyout clause. We don't want him back either. They're taking a hard line on it. Chelsea are actually looking at return clauses in the contract and paying the £5 million fee. Now, allegedly, Sancho wants to go back to Dortmund, but it doesn't sound like Dortmund are particularly keen to have him back either. So this is a guy where it seems like, he can be good, but he's not performing at the minute, and he's got an attitude problem. United are in that position, in a state, if you will, where they can't afford to have that in the dressing room. A team like, I'm being honest here, a team like Liverpool or City would struggle with players like that. And Liverpool, if you believe the rumours, Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's one of those guys at the minute, wants that move to Madrid. But Liverpool can handle it a little bit more because of the calibre of professionals and the position that they're in. United cannot afford to have baggage like that in their dressing room. And we've seen it too many times with United. On this one, I think Ten Hag was probably right about Sancho, and he got a lot of flack about it because he'd lost a lot of respect from the fans, from the players, from the pundits. But definitely, it's problematic. But the other thing that my partner said, Natasha, which is what she said, based around Elanga, she said Elanga came through the youth system at United, and it's a story as old as time now, is of United bringing players up through the youth ranks, quality players, and then not treating them well or giving them the correct opportunities so they fly the nest. And it's been proven time and time again now that for success, to have its longevity, teams need to have a strong youth squad. Even if they do sell them for profit, there's multitude of reasons. You can bring the player up through and they become endeared to the fans and they have a connection to the club that a bought-in player just doesn't. But you can sell them and make massive amounts of money off the back of it because, you got them from early days. Or you can keep them and play them and develop them and they end up world class. There's just so many tiers to it. And you just have to think with Elanga, he's not the first missed opportunity. But, mentioning that youth team setup again, the youth team setup clearly isn't a friendly environment at United at the moment. And, it's something that needs to be kind of looked into. it sounds to me like that Sancho is a big problem. And, you can like him as a player and think he's a good player, but his attitude is ridiculous. Like, leaving that comment on Rashford's post publicly for everyone to see. As I said, I've already mentioned it. Both players are still United players. Both players. And I don't think Chelsea would be too happy with Sancho doing that. I don't think Villa would be too happy with Sancho doing that. Rashford didn't do it. Rashford, they won't be annoyed at Rashford, but I can see them being a bit annoyed at Sancho. Um, for that, United will be annoyed about that. Like, it's so unprofessional. It stinks. It stinks just because you have beef with a manager that's not even there. And before you go on, the club treated him shit. Well, before you say that, the club's treating everyone shit. The club's treating everyone shit, and you know that. So tell me you're a shit stirrer without telling me you're a shit stirrer. Because that was just regarding a loan move to Villa, whilst he's on loan at Chelsea. And he commented, freedom, and he's not even performing at Chelsea. I'll say it again, both players are still technically in the United squad. What a silly and immature thing to do. What did he think was going to happen? I understand with everything that, we aren't privy to some things. There's always a chance it's hearsay. I've got to say that. And we've got Sancho pegged all wrong, and he's actually the victim of a malicious smear campaign carried out by the Glazers, and Ten Hag is still involved, and they get him on the blower on Microsoft Teams, and every few weeks, how are we going to fuck Sancho over today? But you'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. Bayern Munich didn't want to sign Sancho because they heard he was problematic in the dressing room. You don't just get put off by baseless rumours if you want to sign a player. There's got to be some substance to them. He lost his place in the England squad for poor timekeeping and not having the mentality to compete. That might just be being polite. There could be some truth in the accusations towards United. Like, it's known he didn't get on with Ten Hag and his coaching staff, and, the Glazers aren't known. Well, United as a club isn't known for treating their players quite well, and it's a problem we all know about, and, United fans know that too. But is he the innocent victim of a career-destroying United conspiracy? I don't think so. There's two sides to every story, and I'm sure fans of Sancho will be quick to show me their side of things, which I'd be happy to look at. The real answer is, I suppose we'll never actually know. In the covert world of dressing room chit-chat, it's hard to know what information truly is, well, true. It's like a celeb blind item. However, I will say that players don't often get that sort of reputation, especially from multiple clubs and sources, without there being at least a kernel of truth to the matter. And I've given examples. You can look into this yourself. I've given examples of that, of where he's shown that at multiple different places. I've shown examples where he's shown that publicly. But yeah, there's a lot to it. This video is supposed to be quite short, but it's not the best researched either. I'm no scholar on Jadon Sancho. A lot of it is hearsay, a lot of it is speculation, but I can see news stories from multiple sources claiming very similar things about him. So, you can decide what the truth is, but you've got to make an educated assumption. And there's multiple sources saying the same thing. So where does that leave you? I don't mean to shit on him too much. I know it probably sounds like I do, but I don't. I'm just reporting on some of the things I've read. And, it started off with a conversation with a colleague today, and it's ended. Oh, look at that hair! And it's ended in this state. I was hoping to maybe show some of the screen, but we didn't really need to. But look, you can look at it yourself. If I put Jadon Sancho problematic, say, problem. What went wrong at United? Fell out with Eric Ten Hag, received a lack of performance, subsequent loan move to Dortmund, followed by a loan move to Chelsea. His attitude is a problem. Sancho sleeps too little and sits at the console and plays until the early hours of the morning. According to Dortmund, From England, we can see, you know, I can't find the article. I had an article up that said about like, he was literally running late and he didn't want to. I don't even know. Problems behind the scenes, tough problems for United. Timekeeping, there we go. Jadon Sancho's problems with timekeeping and his propensity to sulk. But I heard the same from England. I can't find the article for some reason. I found it earlier, but it was on my phone, to be fair, so I don't know if there's different fucking things coming through. But yeah, has become a 73 million afterthought for England. I mean, that's a New York Times, take that with a pinch of salt. But yeah, that's just where we're at with it. So, yeah,